Majority of first-time parents in particular that I speak to, like anxiety is almost like majority, like at least 90% of the people that first of all, they're reaching out for the first time, and that's like their primary presenting concern. And there is so much related to sleep and feeding that feed the anxiety, like nothing else that you may have ever experienced. And so, like feeding in itself, um, like just as a frame of reference, like that can be weeks and months worth of work to get to a place where you're feeling comfortable with whatever feeding style you choose, um, because of this kind of there's still like a battle between how you feed your baby, and mom's wellness is not always considered in those conversations. And even if the mom is trying to put herself as a priority, it is like astonishing how many side messages can still come that even though someone's working towards being more comfortable with it, these things just constantly happen. Even like um, other professionals that might be involved, that is probably their mandate, but those small comments actually have such a big impact, so that the feeding conversation is huge. And I've worked with people where that is like the topic of conversation, maybe the entire time we work together, because it's so long lasting and prevalent, and there's so much like guilt and shame and layers to whatever decision you make for whatever purpose. Self doubt as a mother can come into to play, like starting whenever either like you're pregnant or you're going through that you know planning stage. It starts almost right away. You come into this like new world of all these new rules that nobody has really talked about until you start thinking about planning for a family, or you're already in the pregnancy and you're going through it. And so there is so much information and so many things we've either grown up with and didn't realize that we absorbed those thoughts, or that you're sitting in like a doctor's office, a midwife's office, or the hospital, and you're like, why are there so many pamphlets? Like there's just, and now we have access to anything at our fingertips. And so there are just beyond information, like the information overload is to the max. And so, and then on top of information overload, you're going to get opinions and advice from anybody you come into contact with, whether that's like strangers, your family, your friends, again, for better or worse. And so that self doubt starts right away because there are always other ways to do things. And so you'll start doing things one way. And then if you're like not seeing the result you anticipated right away, then you're like, am I doing it wrong? So say, the baby comes home from the hospital, or the baby comes home, and you're like, okay, I'm going to put them in the bassinet, and they stay in the bassinet for 20 minutes, and then they start crying, and you're like, immediately you're like, well, what did I just do wrong? Like, it says the baby should be sleeping in the bassinet. My friends put the baby in the bassinet. Like, mom says I'm not supposed to hold the baby. Like, all these kind of things. And so it starts like right away in literally every topic of life and parenting. There are other ways to do it. And so being aware that that's a thing is a starting point, and then finding your comfort over time comes with the confidence in your decisions, and that it's okay to change your mind. You don't have to do what you thought you would do from the book you read when before your baby has come home. Like, you are allowed to change your mind, and that's okay. The expectations of having a newborn or a young child, or at any stage really, the expectations are not meeting the reality, we're doubting ourselves, and we're doubting, like, especially in the newborn phase, I find, like, maybe I was not meant to be a mom. Like, maybe this wasn't for me. Like, why did I romanticize it so much? Like, this is so hard. How come no one told me about this? Like, how heavy it is. And so those things lead into just like the rabbit hole of deeper feelings that probably haven't been addressed because they're so raw and painful that we are not going to address them on a daily basis. And now you're presented with like a life to take care of. Like, all of your heart has just like become into taking care of them. And, combined with the sleep deprivation and the less lack of filters and all these things. And so you're having these really heavy emotions and doubting yourself in all sorts of ways, including your worthiness, or are you even prepared to be a mom? Can you do this? Like, all those kind of things. And so those are conversations that we would have, and they can be super emotional, and they can be super like lifting. Like there will be so much that gets lifted from your heaviness from just being able to have a safe person to talk about those things with and knowing that that is such a common experience.